From bustling school corridors to kids' bedrooms across the nation, the huge challenge of smartphone use remains.
It just kind of feels like time flies when it's happening. Yeah, I don't really notice it all.
You can't just flat out ban it, because instead we should be teaching and educating our girls on how to safely and responsibly using them.
Smartphones are banned in government schools across Australia. Phones must be off and away the whole school day, with limited exceptions. But private schools make their own rules for devices that are now just a part of growing up.
Where we've moved to now is to have a position that it's not needed to own a personal smartphone or a watch, and that is for all primary school age students here at Hale.
The Cox family in the outer east of Melbourne are adjusting their smartphone structure on the fly. 15-year-old Jessie Cox goes to a private school where phones can't be accessed for the entire school day. After a disappointing math test result, his parents decided to track his phone use at home.
So I was probably surprised at the amount of time he was spending on his phone, just in general.
Through the settings on Jesse's phone, his parents monitored how much screen time he logged in a typical week. Jesse was on his phone for about 40 hours, or nearly 6 hours a day. On school holidays, the screen time was often greater.
So you can see games is 3 hours. Social media is 4 hours. So that was a bit of an eye-opener for us.
For Jesse, hitting 6 hours of screen time on apps and games on his phone wasn't that hard.
I was probably on Twitch for about an hour and a half or 2 hours a day pretty easily. Snapchat is another big one that I'm on for probably 2 hours. And then the other 2 hours is probably in a mix of games like Clash Royale and other things like of that sort.
Education professor Neil Selwyn cautions bans during school hours address only part of the problem.
Young people spend most of their time outside of schools, so all of the harms that we're worried about in terms of phone dependency, phone addiction, accessing inappropriate content, cyberbullying, that's still taking place. Kids are still on these devices.
Hey kiddo, it's about time for bed, okay?
Okay.
In the US, those harms were clearly illustrated in a recent ad advocating a smartphone-free childhood.
There's a box in the corner over there with all the pornographic material that's ever been made in the world, even the really weird stuff that could scar you for life. I'm trusting you not to look in there, okay?
Okay.
Love you, buddy.
School phone bans are relatively new in Australia, with Victoria leading the way in 2020. For the past 2 years, all states and territories have been on board. A recent survey from South Australia of more than 1,000 teenagers found school phone bans led to improved classroom focus and better social engagement, although some reported they struggled to manage stress without their phone.
Having a ban in schools, I guess, is an easy win. It's an easy thing for politicians to say, yep, we're doing something.
Neil Selwyn says the South Australian survey is one of very few to ask young people about bans during school hours, rather than school principals or parents. He says the science is limited.
This isn't really an issue that's been kind of based on evidence. It's very much been based on what politicians think are right, what they're hearing from parents, what they're hearing from schools. So it's very much done on the basis that this is inherently going to be a good thing.
That is the format, but because we
Private schools, such as Strathcona Girls Grammar in Melbourne's East, are taking different approaches. Principal Lorna Began says when students get phones in years 7 and 8, use is restricted, but not banned.
Students in 7 and indeed up to year 9 have their phones in their lockers, but they are able to check them before school, at recess, at lunch, after school, and if it's required as part of the learning process, they may go and get their phones.
The policy here is more relaxed and emphasizes teaching these year 8 students how to manage smartphone use.
I think it's become a really important part of our daily life.
Here, even in year 8, smartphones can be tools in the classroom.
A lot of the time in some subjects we have to download apps. So in science we had to download like a bug identification app.
On the other side of the country, at Perth's Hale School, the rules for these year 7 boys couldn't be more different. They are banned from even owning a smartphone. And starting next year, that goes for Year 8 boys too.
Yeah, but do people have them in their pockets?
Dean Deloro is the school's headmaster.
I've always said this is not a ban, it's a delay to smartphone ownership. So we are advocates for technology, and therefore young people have to learn how to use technology, and we think Year 9 is the right time to own that technology.
Deloro says parents overwhelmingly support the approach.
The great epiphany that we had, and the realisation was that parents are overwhelmed and they need support with a strong position from a school to be able to say no, so that children can actually be children.
Year 7 students can bring a so-called dumb phone without access to the internet to school, but it has to be strictly confined to their locker. But no smartphones, no social media. These Year 7 students don't think they're missing out.
In class, I think you're more focused, you're not worrying about anything else. Maybe might be happening with your phone, maybe you're on a group chat or something.
So it was kind of an expectation for me to get a smartphone. So at first, I was kind of a bit shocked that it had happened. But eventually I realised like sort of the dangers and like the addiction that can happen when you just get glued to it.
So what do you think, like in 1,000?
Back at Strathcona Girls Grammar, Principal Lorna Began believes smartphone bans are a popular solution, but not the right one.
Show me a ban that's ever worked. The education piece trumps it 100%. Whether it's safe driving, whether it's prohibition in alcohol, you name it, banning doesn't actually cure the problem. It's a quick fix.
I find it interesting that we have clear boundaries around use of alcohol. And really in this country, you don't use alcohol before you're 18. But of course we know people do, the rules will be broken. But the purpose of putting a boundary around that is so there's structure. We have no structure with smartphones, none whatsoever.
Recently, Jesse Cox and his parents agreed to set a 2-hour limit per day of phone screen time.
It was kind of like a switch, like something switched in my brain. I was like, yeah, I am using this way too much and there's better things I can put my time into.
Like studying, getting outside, and actually getting enough rest.
I'll go to sleep way quicker because I'm usually stuck scrolling on stuff or playing something on my phone and struggling to get to sleep. But now I notice that I go to sleep much quicker and, yeah, wake up much better.
It's still early days for the new smartphone rules for Jesse. Even he's surprised that after a 2/3 cut in screen time, life goes on.
I feel like I don't miss it as much as like you'd think. Being on it for 6 hours a day to 2 hours is a huge difference. But I didn't like feel that difference because I was doing other stuff in that time. So it wasn't like me wanting to be on my phone or like saying like, man, I wish I was on my phone right now.